everybody. Welcome to another Haas Talks Foss. I'm here with Marcelo Altmann, our Percona's own super engineer. Marcelo, you've been at Percona for a few years now. I remember we met in person a couple times at conference here and there, and also you came to our headquarters. And Marcelo, you're down in Brazil, and so what does the American do to the guy who comes from Brazil? He brings them to the Brazilian restaurant just to see how close the Brazilian food is in America to Brazilian food in Brazil, right? And so,
Indeed.
and we found out it was not. It was kind of okay, right?
It was okay. It was okay. They had like some
Yeah.
good barbecue, some good picanha.
Yeah, but it wasn't up to the Brazilian standards. So
No, not quite. Like especially here in South Brazil, we are close to Uruguay. Like asado and barbecue, it's a big thing. So
it is a big thing. It is a big thing. I have only found one Uruguayan barbecue in all of the U.S. I actually found it once. Like I was driving around and I'm like, whoa! And so I had to pull in and I had to go get some. Because we do know that we have some excellent barbecue skills down in the South American region.
yeah.
Right? So Marcos's barbecues are the thing of legend.
Indeed, if you had a chance to go to some Uruguayan team meeting on end of the year meeting, like we call him the designated barbecue master. So he
Yes.
is the
So
guy.
we're actually planning a barbecue and open source event where we're all going to get and we're going to grill and we're going to barbecue individually and talk open source with Marcos and other people. I think it's going to be an outstanding event.
It's like I don't know about the others, and I don't think I could do that, like talk technical thing and barbecue, but I'm sure that Marco will be able to do that.
Oh, okay. So now there's a challenge out there. So those who are interested in barbecue and open source, a new event for the community, let me know because we're really excited about that. That's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be
Now,
a thing.
yeah. So Marcelo, you've been at Percona, like I said, for a few years. You started off in the support team. Now you're in the engineering team. And so, tell me a little bit about your background here. So, what kind of brought you into the open source space and brought you to Percona, and tell me about that journey to, eventually doing some engineering work.
Right. So I started with MySQL, I don't know, around 2006, 2007 as like LAMP, learned Linux, PHP, and MySQL. And like if you are in the MySQL ecosystem, like you know about Percona, like you read the performance blog and everything. So I moved to Ireland. I was a database administrator for the top level country domain, like the company responsible for the .ie domains, like the .coms in US. I think in 2014 I got the chance to go to London and speak on a Percona Live. I met a few of the guys there, but it was in 2006 when I went to Santa Clara in another Percona Live where again um, Marcos and Wagner Bianchi, they introduced me to a lot of folks in Percona, and they said, "Well, come to work here." And I thought, well, I don't know if I'm am capable of, but let's try. I remember I had some projects to finish to the Irish company, and I did that, and then I applied for a position, and here I am.
And here you are. And then you and Charlie came out, visited me, ate Brazilian barbecue, and
Yeah,
you started off your career. Um,
indeed,
so you started in the support space,
indeed.
and you moved from support to engineering. Why the switch?
I don't know. It's like in MySQL, it's like it's a big thing. Like you can like replication, you can like I don't know optimizing queries, you can like design schemas, things like that. And in support, I was always attracted to crashes. When there was
You have a
some
little chaos in you, right? Like you're like, how do I make
oh
this crash?
yes. MySQL is crashing, yeah. And when I first started, again, Marcos was my buddy, and before joining Percona, I have never opened MySQL source code. It was like something unbelievable in my case. And I remember working with Marco in some cases, and he said, "Well, it's open source, dude. Let's open the source." And once I started to get familiar with things, I was always then attracted for crashing. And every new ping we got on Slack, and it was crash signal 6, signal 11. No one wanted to touch those type of cases, and I was like, leave to me, leave to me. So it was like an opportunity to get a real case scenario and like explore a bit more of the source code. And then I remember I tried to apply to an engineering position, but it was like some senior position, and I was not accepted. And basically talking with Karina, my manager at the time, I said, well, that's actually what I want. And she spoke with George, which is my actual manager at the moment, and we did some sort of arrangement. I worked 4 days a week on support and 1 day a week as a engineer, a C++ engineering. So that's how it started. I think I spent like a year doing that.
And then you got
Uh,
more familiar with the source code. You were able to dig
Source
in.
code.
You started to learn C. So you
Yeah,
actually got the opportunity to not only like kind of scratch your itch with the chaos and the crashes. You were able to actually learn a lot of those engineering things while
indeed.
working.
And and it's kind of some sort of a big step because one thing it's okay, I want to be an engineer. The other thing is like to understand what is a day to day on the engineering side, and like that actually gave me the opportunity to taste this and understand, well, that's actually what I want, or no, let's stay at the support.
Well, what is a day in the life of an engineer like? What does that look like?
Well, if I had to work with crashes before, like right now, it's even more.
Oh, okay, okay. A lot of
Yeah,
crashes.
it's yeah, no, that's basically what we do. Like we try to solve crashes or design new features, but basically a day in life of an engineering, it's I don't know, 5 minutes coding and the rest of the day running tests because like MySQL has this gigantic test suite. So every time we do something, either a new feature or a bug fix, like we need to make sure we write a proper test case so someone else doesn't introduce this same bug or this issue again. And like MySQL has a for all those years now, like it has a gigantic list of test cases. So every time you do something, you have to make sure you're not introducing a regression on something that was supposed to work before. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, and QA is always a critical component. You know, especially with data, because you don't want to mess with people's data.
yeah,
Right. That's one of the things is you need to keep it as safe as possible. Now, your love for bug crashes led you to really become kind of more intimately involved with GDB.
GDB
Uh,
indeed.
yes, because GDB is the tool of choice to look through traces and try and find some of those problems. For those who don't know what GDB is, because we've got kind of all over the board audience. Number one in Tunisia, number two in Madagascar in terms of podcasts on Apple. So very proud of that. So for all of those folks who are out there, who don't know what GDB is, maybe give a little bit of background on GDB for folks.
So GDB is basically a debugger that works in various languages, including C and C++, which is the language that MySQL it's written with. And basically, it allows you to go inside the process and like trace whatever it's going on. Like you can do some crazy things, like you can change a MySQL variable from the GDB source. Like you can uh, what we most do, like we do set points before like a crash happens, so you can understand what was like the value of a variable and who changed that variable. Like you can add hardware watch points on memory address to see who changed that memory value or something. So those are the most useful things that you do with GDB. But basically, it's meant for debugging.
And you just wrote this blog post, and this was a really cool tool that I didn't even know about. And in fact, when I was talking with people at Percona, like half of them are like, I've never heard of that tool. Called RR for replaying GDB traces so you can kind of walk through. So how does that work?
That's it. I was like fascinated when I heard about this, and I was kind of scratching myself like I have to test this. I have to find a case where this will be useful, and I'm sure like this will be a game changer. And we actually had one case that it's the one that I wrote the blog post, which was the first one we used it. But basically, RR was designed by the Mozilla guys to find some bugs on Firefox. And like when you are dealing with bugs, like the most the your chances to find a fix for a bug is if you have a test case. Finding a deterministic test case, it's like not always the case. It's very difficult to be able to write a deterministic test case. And like with this type of software that we deal nowadays, like MySQL, it's multi-process. You have tons of components inside the software. Things have to happen in a certain order so you can explore that edge case that you are seeing. Sometimes it takes weeks for you to be able to reproduce once, and you are in the middle of reproducing that the whole day, the whole week, and when you reproduce, you kind of lost track. Okay, what I changed is now that made it reproducible. So RR came in to help this. Like it's not a thing in the MySQL ecosystem. Like everyone that does software has issues with finding deterministic text cases. And the Mozilla guys, they created this tool that basically it keeps track of all the system calls that a process does and the return it receives and the signals. It record those and they can be replayed using the GDB, our favorite tool.
Very
And
cool.
like it's really cool because it's 100% deterministic. Like even like the memory addresses and everything, like if you can replay that over and over again, and you will always get the same result. And the most amazing thing about this tool, it's like it also allows you to play the execution backwards. Like with GDB, like you have to put breakpoints, for example, like I want breakpoint on step two, and then you go to step two with, I don't know, one example, like sometimes it takes times to replay all the execution. So let's say it takes 15 minutes to replay the execution and you hit the breakpoint on step two, for example. And then you realize like the issue, it's not here, the issue it's in step one. When you are doing that with GDB itself on a running process, what will have to happen, like you have to start everything over again. But with record and replay, like you can just put a breakpoint on step one and replay the execution backwards. And like this is
That's very cool. Yeah,
amazing.
I mean
Yeah.
that's really cool that you can go back where you were before and kind of step backwards as and forwards.
Yeah. So you can go back and forward as much as you want. And like as I mentioned, this it's been a game changing in terms of finding bugs and reducing, shortening like the time to on the resolution of those.
Very cool, very cool. And the blog's out there now, so I would encourage people if they want to know more details to check it out because this isn't a tool that had a lot of documentation either, so you had to figure out some of this as well.
Yes, and one thing that I really like it's the guys here at Mozilla, they are really open. I was also doing some work with this and with a project with Vadim regarding Percona XtraDB cluster, and I actually found a bug on the tool that there were some deadlock when you were using like outputting strings on a pipe, and I just wrote a deterministic test case, a program that could reproduce that. I opened an issue with the RR guys, and I think in one day or two they fixed that. So,
Cool.
and
Very responsive then. That's awesome.
yeah, and but it's true, like there is not much documentation. The tool, it's not like the most user friendly, as you can imagine. Like it touches like some low level things. You have to do some depending on your processor. You will have to do some changes. Like in my case, I have an AMD Ryzen, so you have to do some workarounds in order to be able to trace everything before it goes to the gets to the CPU. But it's amazing. Like it's a new it's kind of a new tool. It's getting some traction right now, so more people are using, more people are contributing to this. So I believe it will be very popular and perhaps even deliver on standard like Linux distro in the future.
Great. That's awesome. Well, Marcelo, thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with us about RR, a little bit about what you've been working on, your career. Appreciate the time today, and hope to see you in the future at an actual in-person barbecue.
Well,
That would be nice.
I'm looking forward for that.
Yes, yes. But thanks a lot, Marcelo. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
All right.
Bye bye.
Wow, what a great episode that was. We really appreciate you coming and checking it out. We hope that you love open source as much as we do. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And of course, tune in to next week's episode. We really appreciate you coming and talking open source with us.